Am I the a-hole for laughing at my brother while he's going through a bad divorce? My brother is going through a divorce right now. He's been living with my mom and dad, and me and my parents helped him come up with money to get a lawyer. I know it's been a rough time for him. When he met with a lawyer for the first time, he found out that you can't get alimony in a divorce if there was infidelity. As in, the law forbids it and there's no exception. It doesn't matter if you stayed home with your kid for over 20 years like my brother or never worked. My sister-in-law is an architect and she makes bank. My brother thought he would get alimony, but he was dumb enough to cheat on her. He also found out that he is not able to claim any part of the house because she owned it outright before they got married. Both of these he wasn't expecting, and he was obviously upset when he got back from his first visit with a lawyer. When he told me that the law will deny him alimony, I laughed, and my parents chewed me out over it. It probably was the wrong reaction, but he was so confident he would be able to get a big payment and half or all of the house. He will get some money from their savings, but nowhere near what he thought, and most of it will get eaten up by legal fees. He has been knocked down several pegs and completely screwed himself over. Am I the a-hole because I laughed? Was it like kicking him when he was down? He has no work history or money of his own to fall back on. I know it's been rough for him and he's struggling with what to tell my niece as well. It was almost an involuntary reaction because I just couldn't believe it. Now for the top comments. Was your brother a stay-at-home dad? Did they decide he would stay home, or was he lazy at mooching off her? He was definitely an a-hole for cheating, but if he gave up his job to take care of the kids, he does deserve something. Maybe not the house or a huge alimony, but it is a sacrifice to be a stay-at-home parent. He stayed home from when my niece was born. She graduated college in June and just turned 23. She lived at home until her college graduation. I agree with you, but the law is what the law is. I am torn on this. I am someone who has an inappropriate, reflexive laugh reaction to highly emotional news. It seriously sucks. However, uncontrollable or not, it does make already upset people feel worse. Also, he obviously messed up by cheating. That's a no-brainer. But, does he deserve to get nothing after staying home to raise his daughter in lieu of a paying job? I don't think so. I feel if the roles were reversed, much fewer folks would be saying he got what he deserved. Not the a-hole. He had a life where his wife provides the home and the income, and he decided to destroy it by cheating on his wife, and expected to walk away with her hard-earned money? Him pouting over the reality of having to deal with the consequences of his own stupidity is laughable. Not the a-hole. Cheaters deserve to be laughed at. Brother is realizing his side piece will leave once she learns he doesn't have any money. Lol. See? Laughing is a natural reaction to cheaters getting their just desserts. Reminds me of that one post where the guy cheated on his wife with, I think, a secretary, but his wife was the one with all the money. Ended up getting the side chick pregnant. Lost his wife and everything he had. Not even his daughters want anything to do with him. The wife later got remarried, and he tried to say she was probably having an affair with a dude because of how soon they got married after the divorce. Lol. Not the a-hole. It is funny. Hilarious, actually. He tried to screw his ex-wife over first. He thought he would get money and a house from her, but he fooled around and found out the hard way. Now he has nothing. Like he actually thought he could take her house, the house she had before they even got married. The entitlement that he has is astounding. I mean, a lot of people who browse the sub think that a partner should get partial ownership over their partner's house if they move in and help pay bills for a few months. It's not that far-fetched to believe that a future ex-husband in this story thought something similar would pass in real life. I agree though, it really is funny. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for embarrassing my husband? So I, 32 female, and my husband, 35 male, have been together for 8 years, married for 6. My husband has always talked about having kids, and we decided we were ready last year. After months of stress and no results, we went to a doctor and found out my husband is infertile. He's always deeply wanted to be a father, so this was a big deal to him. We took a few months to process, and he grieved the loss, understandably so. To my surprise, he suggested we go to a sperm bank. I was a little unsure if trying so soon would be a good idea, but he insisted that neither of us are getting younger, and he was completely okay with things. He's always been pretty blunt with his feelings, good or bad, so I thought it was alright. And at first it was. Then when we started looking through the book at the descriptions of the donors, and all of a sudden my husband's attitude changed. He demanded to see some samples of sperm from shorter men, because it's a man thing. And he apparently wouldn't be able to love someone else's son that's taller than him. living in his house. I stopped the appointment, and we got into a terrible fight on the way home. He apologized, saying he was just emotional, realizing it wouldn't really be a son, that the book made it seem real. We agreed to tentatively start the process again, but throughout the week, he made comments about how I might as well just cheat on him, and snide remarks about how my boss would be happy to put a baby in me if I ask. He even got jealous of my brother-in-law and made a very rude comment to him and my sister about how we could swap for a night and all get what we wanted. I shut the entire thing down after that, saying I didn't want to have kids with him when he was acting like this. Maybe never after that. With obligations to visit his family for a birthday dinner, we did. It was an alright if slightly cold evening, until his mother asked me to get him and a few others back inside. I wasn't surprised to find them complaining about me, but the subject matter shocked me. He told them our recent marital problems were because I was infertile, due to my old age. I listened as he told his brother, on and on about how he just wasn't sure if I was worth the effort, and maybe he should try to find someone younger while he still could. They joked about the women he could be sleeping with. It was crass, insulting, and deeply embarrassing. It also wasn't true. I was livid. I went back inside and grabbed the car keys, and when he asked why I was crying, I told everyone in the room, all adults, the truth. I left him there and ignored his calls. When he finally came home, we had the biggest argument of our lives about how I shared such a big insecurity and shamed him to his family. That his mother cried. I'm currently staying with my sister and I think our marriage may be irreparable. He says I humiliated him, and I know that I did. But he was perfectly fine lying to humiliate me and claiming he wanted to leave me. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your husband being infertile feels like karma in this case. Nature's way of telling this particular piece of work not to procreate. Do not have children or tie yourself down to this man any further, OP. The way he has treated you is beyond reprehensible. He deserved to be embarrassed, and honestly deserved much worse than he got. Projecting his own issues onto you publicly, and then making a joke about trading you in is so incredibly disrespectful. I can't imagine how this man would treat a child, or you, as normal life things happen over time. Illnesses, accidents, etc. Time to reconsider this relationship, I'd say. Not stay whole at all. I am pretty sure he would treat the baby from the sperm donor horribly and his wife even more. Yeah, as soon as he started saying he wouldn't be able to love someone else's son if they were taller than him, living in his house, it became clear that he would never actually see the child as his own and would resent them just for existing. I'm so glad that Opie recognized what a red flag that was and stopped the process right then and there, even if she ended up giving him another chance afterward. Hopefully she doesn't go back to him. Not the a-hole. Do you want to have a child with this man? When people show you who they are, believe them. Please don't have a child with this person. Opie did not humiliate her husband at all. She told people the truth, which exposed his lies. He only has himself to blame. What a complete and total a-hole. Not the a-hole. Let's review this wonderful man. 1. He's talking about cheating on you. 2. He's talking about leaving you. 3. He lied about a medical condition that you do not have. 4. He says all of the problems in the marriage are your fault. 5. He's insecure about tall men. 6. He's insecure about being infertile, making creepy jokes about you sleeping with your boss or brother-in-law. Why are you married to this person? Next story. Am I the a-hole for making my mother-in-law believe I was having an affair? I, 27 female, and my husband, 26 male, are big gaming addicts. Our parents hate that we played games, and we have got in multiple fights as children and adults over our hobby. It is a sore subject in our family, and we have opted to lie and say we are outside if anyone asks what we are doing. We both work from home, and right after work we proceeded to play games until midnight. None of us like leaving the house, so we are practically next to each other 95% of the time. There was no humanly possible way for either of us to cheat on one another. I am currently pregnant, and this has caused our in-laws to visit very frequently. Due to this increase in visits, we have reduced much of our gaming time for the better health of the baby, and so they do not see us gaming. We have gotten an argument about how our hobbies are unacceptable, childish, and that we needed to change. Sundays are known to everyone as the unavailable day. We always say we are on a date or something, but in reality, we are at home getting our weekly gaming quota covered. My husband went to a gaming cafe with friends Vicing, and I stayed home last Sunday. Mother-in-law decided later to call me in the middle of a match, and I suppose I was acting very suspicious because I wanted to end the conversation ASAP. She asked what I was doing, and I replied automatically without thinking that I was on a date with my husband. According to my husband, she then later called him and he said that he was at a bar with friends. Mother-in-law decided to visit my house, where I was undoubtedly in the middle of another game. I avoided any phone calls and pretended to not hear the knocking until my match was over, 20 minutes or so. Afterwards, I answered the door and pretended that I was sleeping, which is why I wasn't answering the phone or door. Mother-in-law exploded at me, calling me a cheater, and that the child I was pregnant with was not her son's, because otherwise, why would I not answer the door? The idea that I would cheat, and that it would even be possible to cheat on my partner, was so hilarious to me that I burst out laughing, which angered mother-in-law even more. She continued to berate me while I just smiled, sitting there thinking how ridiculous all this was. When my husband came home, she berated me in front of him about how I was cheating on him. My husband was visibly confused the whole time and confirmed with his mother that there was no possible way for me to cheat on him. He explained how we are together practically every moment of the day, and when mother-in-law saw he was not getting on her side, she proceeded to get mad at me for leading her on. She called me an a-hole for pretending to have an affair and never correcting her before she told other people. Although I never clarified that I wasn't cheating, I do think that it was not her place to come unannounced and proclaim that I am a cheater. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Stop letting this damn woman through your front door. Not the a-hole, of course. OP, stop answering her calls ever. Grey rock her. Your husband plays interference with your mother-in-law from now on. You are completely unavailable to your mother-in-law. There was simply no reason for her to have this much access and this much of an opinion on your lives. Good riddance and happy gaming. Absolutely this. OP, we had a serious breakdown in our relationship with my in-laws, husband and me both, and now the dynamics are he fields any interaction. It's just safer and less messy. And honestly, it's his parents. We have a good relationship with mine, but I still field calls with them. They need to get off your backs. How is gaming worse than reading/watching TV, etc.? You are setting for them all. At least with gaming and reading, your brain is actively working. Big boundaries are gonna be needed for you guys, unfortunately, once baby comes. I have a strong feeling your mother-in-law is going to go off the deep end for encroachment on your lives. Not the a-hole, and your mother-in-law sounds toxic. Your gaming is your business. You both need to tell your parents that is not their business and to keep their opinions on your gaming to themselves. And enforce it. If they start in on you for it on the phone, hang up. If they start when you're at their house, leave. If at your house, tell them to leave. You are adults. I agree. You also don't need to lie about what you are actually doing to win her approval. Who needs the approval of someone who blames everyone else but themselves? Completely agree that they should start acting like adults and stop letting other people dictate how they live their lives. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for speaking American Sign Language and not telling my boyfriend I know how to sign? My 25 female boyfriend, 26 male, is mad at me currently for not telling him I know American Sign Language and embarrassing him. I'm by no means fluent, but I took beginner classes in university. I study a people-facing field and figured it would be helpful. I can get by. I know basic conversational signs and things like how to get around places, locations, etc. It's enough to be helpful but not maintain a fluent conversation. We were at a train station and I had gone to the restroom while my boyfriend waited outside. Before I had gone in, I noticed an elderly couple looking at a map and signing. I didn't think much of it, but when I came back out, I could see my boyfriend trying to help them. I could sense some tension/frustration because he doesn't know ASL, and the couple was obviously lost and flustered. The woman started going through her purse for a pad of paper and had to start emptying her bag to get a pen. I walked up to them and started signing and let them know I could help. They were relieved, and I helped them find their correct route and where they needed to go. After the couple walked away, my boyfriend got mad and said I embarrassed him by not telling him I know ASL and interfering when he had it handled. I told him knowing ASL wasn't a secret, it just never came up. And it wasn't handled, as I could tell he was getting annoyed and the couple was flustered. He says I embarrassed him and showed him up. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add some details. We've been together for a little over 6 months and this is really the first time I've seen this behavior. I definitely realize now this is a red flag, and I guess we're coming out of that honeymoon stage now. To answer some questions, I'm not sure why the couple or my boyfriend didn't opt for using a smartphone. I guess he was flustered, and the couple clearly had plenty of belongings they were juggling. Not a-hole. The proper reaction is, no way. That's cool. Red flag on your boyfriend's ear-interfering reaction. Red flag on getting mad about an insignificant omission too. What an unpleasant person. And a further red flag that it makes being shown up in a minor way this poorly. You were genuinely helpful, and he took it like he lost his hero moment. Not a-hole. Sounds like his ego was bruised. A man less threatened would have been grateful for your assistance. To say he was embarrassed over this interaction is ridiculous. If something so insignificant can annoy him that much, it makes you wonder what would happen if something truly embarrassing happened. Not a-hole. Your boyfriend feels emasculated and undercut because you could do something he can't. Not just knowing the language, but the fact that you solved something he couldn't. I wouldn't go so far as to say that this is a red flag, because sometimes it's hard to control those emotions in the moment. And then, I'm sorry I shouldn't have acted that way becomes very hard to say. However, you should be on the lookout for similar situations in your relationship and get out if they become toxic. Small updates, I guess. He said he's had some time to cool off and he's glad I was able to help them. But he said he still felt embarrassed when I took over the situation and made him look incompetent. I'm planning to have a conversation about how this is a problem with his ego and not my skills. But depending on how that goes, maybe this is the end of it. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter about the real reason for my divorce with her mother? I left my ex-wife after 10 years of dead bedroom. I left as soon as my youngest was 18, and I didn't hide my happiness while doing it. I threw a ditch-to-be party, and I wake up every day since then with a smile on my face. My kids were not thrilled at this and stopped talking to me. I decided not to make amends with them or share my side of the story because I have done my part. I was there till they went to college. If they need me, all they have to do is ask. But I am 46, and I plan to fill my life with as much joy and happiness as I can. I just don't have enough time left to try to convince my kids to not hate me. I asked for divorce 1 year ago, and 2 days later, I met a woman online. My plan was to remain casual, but that didn't pan out as I planned, because this woman became my girlfriend pretty fast. Apparently, my ex has been feeding lies in my kids' minds, that I left her for my girlfriend and I was already cheating on her. My daughter, who is the oldest, started messaging my girlfriend in IG, saying bad things to her, how she is a homewrecker. I asked my daughter to meet me and talk to me directly instead of harassing my girlfriend. I bought her dinner and told her that I never cheated on her mother, which honestly I regret. I should have cheated on her. I wasted my time suffering. I told her about dead bedroom and how she didn't put effort in our relationship. She is 22, so I think she can handle it. She asked me why did I leave her mother before, and I told her that I had this notion that I should ride it out until kids are 18. I thought that was the right thing to do, but I'm not sure anymore. But I do know is that I don't want to think about it. I want to look forward to my future, and if she wants to hate me, she's free to do so. I seriously do not have any plans to convince her otherwise. I want to spend the rest of my life with people who wants to be with me. I really don't have any plans to convince others to be with me, even if they are my own kids. So if she wants to spend time with me, my doors are always open for her and her brother, but she can't harass the woman who makes me happy. If she has so much problem with her, then it's best that we keep our distance. My daughter asked me to give her proof that I only started dating my girlfriend after separation, and I showed her my messages. It took her about a month to process it, but she eventually apologized to my girlfriend, and we spent time together on New Year's Eve. As my daughter got to know my girlfriend, she understood how cool she is. They're bonding very well. My ex raged when she learned that my daughter spent time with my girlfriend. My daughter told her about what I said, and told her that she does not blame me anymore and want to move on. Now my ex is up my behind, sending me nasty messages about how I shouldn't have told our daughter about our intimate life, how I am disgusting, etc., etc. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Lol, pretty sure you have to actually be intimate in order to have an intimate life to talk about. Imagine being that bitter. Exes crossed that OP disclosed the truth, that they had a dead bedroom, but she was happy to lie about OP having an affair. Double standards much? Not the a-hole about setting things straight when your ex lied. But honestly, your whole attitude is pretty a-hole-ish. Dumping your kids because you did your part, as if it didn't even cross your mind that you're a parent for life, because you love your kids and want to watch them turn into thriving adults, celebrate their successes, and help them out when life gets rough. That kind of thing. I have an ex too, I get it. But that whole ditch-to-be language, I hope you spoke in a respectful manner in front of your children. She is their mother. His comment about there not being enough time left in his life to mend the broken relationships with his kids. Bro could live to 90 easily. He's only halfway through his life and ready to live the rest of his life without family relationships because his ex didn't want to sleep with him. Ridiculous and pathetic doesn't even begin to cover this man as a father. I threw a ditch to be party, and you wonder why your kids were mad at you. Maybe your ex is annoying AF, but you don't seem to be 100% all there either. I get what you were saying, I really do. But I think I deserve to throw a ditch to be party. I understand why my kids were mad at me. I uprooted their family, but I was not gonna live with that woman any more than I had to. And I am damn well gonna celebrate leaving her for every day of my life. You can't seem to grasp the point. Ditch the bee, the mother of your children. You have zero respect for their mother and it shows. You should have left years ago because your kids seem to have believed you had a decent relationship with your mom. You lied to them. Your job doesn't stop at 18 for Pete's sake. You're an a-hole, and so is your wife for spreading lies. You're poor kids. Ditch the bee, the mother of your children. I don't care. She was not a good wife. She does not deserve any kind of grace from me. I don't respect her, and I don't need to. She could have put in effort, but she chose not to. Now she's playing victim. She's pathetic. Next story. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my girlfriend, 27 female, over her younger sister, 24 female? I need some outside perspective on the situation. I broke up with my girlfriend 5 days ago due to her sister's behavior. Me and my ex have been dating for the last 2 years, and during this time, her sister has come on to me multiple times. I'm not completely sure about the number of times, but it was almost every time I saw her. I've told the sister multiple times to leave me alone and to stop her behavior, as I don't do the cheating thing, but that did nothing. I've spoken to my ex about it multiple times. She even caught her sister in the act of trying to lock me in a room with herself. Nothing changed. I have spoken to their parents about it and that the behavior of the youngest daughter is unacceptable. And again, nothing happened. I am not going to lie and say the sister was ugly. No, she's actually really beautiful, but I am 100% sure I have not led her on or anything. Even when I greeted her, I gave her a side hug every single time. I have never been in a room alone with her or anything. I just kept my distance from her at all costs. I don't have her on Instagram, Facebook. I don't even have her cell phone number. We have never shared a text or phone call. Her family even gave me a stupid nickname, the puppy, because I follow my girlfriend around everywhere when we are over at their house. The only reason I follow her is because her sister's behavior seemed to stop when she's around. I have told her that I will stop going over to her parents' house because that is where the problems are. I don't want no part of it. She didn't like that idea and sulked around the house for weeks because I didn't want to go with her. No point in time did I tell her she can't go. I just said I wasn't going with her. I relented 5 days ago and went over. We had too much to drink and slept over at the parents' house that night. The morning I woke up with the sister completely naked in bed next to me. I stormed out the door and down to the kitchen and told her we are done in front of her parents. She was silent for what seemed like minutes and started to break down asking why. All I said was go look in that room, and I stormed out of the house and got in my car. It took less than 2 minutes, then the calls started to come in, not just from her, but her parents as well. I didn't answer any of the calls. When I got home 40 minutes later, I had 108 missed calls from her and her parents and 36 messages, 2 from her parents. The messages from her parents just apologized to me, saying they thought I was joking about the sister every time I brought it up, and they didn't believe me. All I got from my now ex was sorry and she will handle it and it will never happen again. I shouldn't leave. We can work through this. I'm just done. She has even gotten my family involved in our friend. 90% of everyone is on her side, saying I'm overreacting and I'm the a-hole for dumping her. That we can sort this out. I sent her a message that she has until Sunday to get her things out of my house. I'm just done. Surprisingly, she has not sugar-coated anything and explained everything correctly to everyone. But I'm still in the wrong for leaving her. Her parents in their messages are angry at me for hurting their daughter. My family's angry because they love her. Our friends are angry because I refuse to take her back and saying I'm overreacting. 2 years of this crap and I'm overreacting. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. If the genders were reversed, that would be looked at like a sex crime. You told everyone you could and tried to avoid it. Anyone outside of her and her parents being salty is an a-hole too. I agree. What is messing with my mind a bit is that 10% of people on my side are all men. All the female friends and the ones in my family are saying I'm taking it too far by breaking up. That is the reason for my post. Every female I have in my life is saying I'm the a-hole. Well, I'm female, and I think she was absolutely harassing you. And getting into bed with you naked? Absolutely trash behavior when she knows you have a girlfriend. The fact it's her sister makes it worse. You told everyone multiple times it bothered you and nothing was done. She doesn't get to cry because she didn't consider your feelings. I honestly can't believe anyone is on her side if she told them exactly what happened. Seems you need better quality friends. Exactly. How is anyone okay with this behavior? If Opie did this behavior straight to jail, he'd be labeled a creep, and this would be assault/harassment. Both of those things would be true. The fact that everyone, but especially her immediate family and her sister, is nonchalant about it is alarming. Opie needs better friends. Not the a-hole. You try to work it out for years. Undoubtedly, you aren't taken seriously by her or her family until a naked girl is found in your bed. Good riddance. I personally don't know you, but I'm a woman and totally agree with you cutting contact. I'm not sure what your family and female friends are thinking. If your girlfriend or her parents had walked in while you were still asleep, it would be an entirely different ballgame. You would have been accused of who knows what. Crap, now I'm actually scared. That has not even crossed my mind at all. They haven't hit you with anything, so undoubtedly they know you didn't touch the sister. I'm just saying if they had walked in while you were asleep, things could have been different. The way you reacted shows them you're a stand-up guy and was telling the truth all this time. I'm glad you got out of that situation. Thank you for the nice words, but a little too late to start believing me. At her parent, she acted like that in front of them. The only time she stopped was when my ex was in the room. Not the a-hole. This girl was sexually harassing you. Think about it this way. If you had a male family member do all this to her and get into bed naked with her, she would have called the cops. The sister is a predator. Save the messages and go to the cops. They probably won't do anything, but you can start a paper trail on this woman. If you have a lawyer or can afford one, get a lawyer to send a well-crafted note to both the sister and the rest of that family to leave you alone. They're a bunch of enablers. I'm so angry for you. I haven't thought of going to the police, but we'll have a chat with my lawyer and discuss possible actions. Last story. Am I the a-hole for putting my ex and his sister on blast for being hobosexuals? I, female 26, just broke up with my boyfriend over our short road trip. Initially, my plan was to spend 3 days doing my modest version of Eat, Pray, Love all by myself in a 4 to 5 hour distance from home ratio. I'd been saving up to stay in 3 different accommodations. No Airbnb for me, just hotel rooms and exploring cities that I'd never been to, and visiting my favorite town, which is 1 hour away. By the time I was ready for my trip, to celebrate a career milestone, I already was in a relationship with Mac, male 34. He insisted on coming along, and this created friction. I gave in to his demands and we agreed on splitting costs. I would pay for the hotel rooms, and he would drive us and cover gas costs plus half the meal costs. The first hotel was really nice. I booked a suite with perks and a lovely view. The rest of the accommodations were average, between a low-cost bedroom and guest house. I hated the first hotel experience. Mac asked me if we could meet with his childhood friend. It was very short notice, but I wasn't against meeting the guy and his wife. I learned during our meet and greet that Mac had invited them days in advance but neglected to tell me. I let it slide because I honestly thought maybe there was a misunderstanding. I didn't enjoy meeting his friends. They didn't do anything in particular to offend me or anything. It's just that we were supposed to be enjoying a date, and his friends were there, and I felt invaded and out of place. It felt like an outsider because I couldn't really contribute to their conversations. They started drinking, and I refused to charge it to our room, and Mac's face of anger made me feel horrible. Also, when he floated the idea about bringing his friends, I suggested we could meet the next day at the next town, but he insisted that it had to be that night at that hotel. His friends don't strike me as bad people, but I felt Mac made a unilateral decision and I got bumped. He promised it would just be dinner, but I finally went to sleep at midnight and he was smiling and super happy to be with his friends and allowed me to go to our room by myself. He never showed up, despite telling me that he would join me in a few minutes. I called him past 2 a.m. and he said that he was out of the hotel because they had the munchies. I exploded on him and told him to not bother coming back, and that I would have all his belongings handed over to him at the front desk. I couldn't sleep because I was hurt and angry and checked out really early in the morning. He called me names and said that I don't appreciate the meaning of lifelong friendships and that this is why I'm a loner, and that he was humiliated in front of his friends. I said not to worry about it and rented a car and blocked him everywhere and removed the in a relationship tag from my social media. His sister tagged me in her social media rant about people who think they are better than everyone else and tried to put me on blast by describing almost the same exact situation at the hotel in her cryptic blabbing. I uploaded receipts in one of his angry texts, accusing me of being controlling because I refused to charge their drinks to the hotel room at my expense, since he was gonna pay it back. I said I will never allow hobosexuals into my life again, since I just had a very ungrateful experience. His sister deleted a post, but my best friend says that while she knows I'm right, maybe I was cruel because now this will chase him for a long time. She may be right, since I have an otherwise stable and promising future and maybe it came across as poverty shaming. Not my intention, I just wanted to set the record straight. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Absolutely not the a-hole. Anyone saying she sucks for having compromised and tried a new boyfriend out on a vacation are missing the point. That's what dating is for, to see if you are compatible. So she compromised, realized he was too selfish/immature for her, and ended it. Shouldn't have agreed to pay all housing and half of food. That was the red flag. Trip shouldn't have happened. But yeah, I do feel for Opie. Sounds like someone who is trying to see the best in people. Shouldn't have allowed him to come in the first place. This was supposed to be her Zen vacation, and he tagged along because one of her plans was in his friend's hometown. The fact he made plans before she said he could come is ballsy. Sorry he ruined your trip. At least you are rid of him. Not the a-hole. I have to give OP props for not waiting until the next stop to see what further BS he was going to pull. He got 3 strikes. 1. Unilaterally invited strangers to her to join them. 2. Tried to charge the drinks to the room. In my opinion, to look like a big shot, with a very real possibility of OP never being repaid. 3. Brings them to dinner, allows OP to go up to the room alone and then disappears without a text. No, I don't think it reflects poorly that OP was willing to change her plans. Plans were made when she was single. When it rolled around, she was in a new relationship, and a weekend with a new partner is a pretty excellent way to see if you are compatible with someone. Compromising on this is a hallmark of maturity and part of being with someone. While it imploded on her, the boyfriend did her a great service of showing that there's a reason why he was still single at 34, dating a woman a decade younger. He clearly still hasn't gotten his act together. Good riddance, OP. Hope the rest of the trip made up for the terrible start. In my opinion, his first strike was forcing his way into her trip that she had planned on her own. That was already red flag to me. Asking would be fine, but insisting and being pushy is too much. Am I the a-hole for uninviting my brother for my wedding? I am marrying my brother's best friend. When my partner and I told my brother we were dating, he was happy. He was happy that his best friend and his favorite sibling were together. But when we told him we got engaged, things changed. He became sour. He didn't even congratulate us. Throughout the entire wedding planning process, he made negative comments about everything and kept making jokes about what a terrible wife I'll be and that my partner should run while I can. My family and my partner all acted as if he was just joking. When we were 3 weeks out from my wedding, my brother asked me to come over to his place by myself. When I got there, he told me I needed to cancel the wedding. He kept saying he can't tell me why, I just need to cancel it. I was getting worried. Maybe he knew something about my fiancé and he was protecting me. But he denied it. He said my fiancé is great, but that I need to cancel it. As a joke, I said, it sounds like you're in love with him, and admitted that he is. I was taken aback and didn't know what to say, so I told him he was uninvited from the wedding and left. When my family and my fiancé's family found out I uninvited him, he told them it was because he insulted me. So everyone thought I was just being dramatic and I'll get over it. It's now a week away from the wedding and my fiancé keeps telling me to call my brother and sort it out. He says it's now getting ridiculous and he needs his best man. My family is calling me immature and keeps telling me to get over it, even though they don't know the full story. I'm so conflicted. I would never get with someone my siblings have romantic feelings for, but now it's too late. I love my fiancé. We have a life together and we are planning our future. I can't just cancel it all. I'm also not going to out my brother to everyone. I'm not a horrible person. But I feel so guilty. Should I just let him come and be miserable at the wedding? Or should I continue to be the a-hole to the rest of our family and keep him away? Now for the top comments. Whoa. Okay, what a mess. Your brother has put you in an impossible situation. Not the a-hole for uninviting him, but what you do next will decide so many factors for your family going forward. Can you talk to your brother again? Maybe when you're both calm? Obviously, you don't want to out him, but keeping something like this from your future husband is a massive conflict. He's blocked me and everything. Oh, OP, this must be incredibly stressful. I'm certain your brother is terrified and confused. I can't think of a more awful position to find yourself in, but you are navigating a minefield here without help. I respect that you don't want to out your brother to the whole family. A well-worded response might help here. My brother and I have had a disagreement. It's private in nature. Thank you for respecting our privacy on this issue. But your fiancé? That's a tough one. The last thing you want to do is start your marriage with a secret this large haunting you. Would you consider being honest with him? Not the a-hole because your brother has created an impossible situation for you. I also don't think you're an a-hole for uninviting him. If he's adamant that you cancel the wedding, how do you know he'll behave during the wedding and not try and sabotage it in some way? Your brother has forced your hand to need to maybe tell someone. I wholeheartedly agree that no one should doubt anyone, but your brother hasn't been reasonable here. This isn't a normal situation. At the very least, start by telling your fiancé that your brother insisted that you cancel the wedding, that he went on and on about it. That might be enough to make your fiancé wonder if your brother should really be there. He might even reach out to your brother and insist on a reason. That could get your brother to back down and you won't have outed him. However, if your fiancé doesn't think there's any reason in your brother insisting you cancel the wedding, then you should tell your fiancé but swear him to secrecy. At least you will have one person on your side who understands why you did what you did, even if he ultimately says that your brother should be invited again. He could then confirm to your family that you had a good reason and that they should back off a bit. If you don't, your family's going to think you're crazy or really unreasonable, and that will be a terrible start to your future. Next story. Am I the a-hole for stealing my mother-in-law's heirloom recipe and bringing it to a potluck? I, 38 male, have always enjoyed cooking and baking. My wife, 37 female, on the other hand, is not. So I do probably 95% of the cooking in our house, and I like to think I'm pretty good at it. My mother-in-law, 70 female, is also an exceptional cook, and we've both shared recipes with each other over the years. But there is one recipe that she refuses to share with me, her apple pie. She says it's her great-grandmother's recipe and has been in the family for over 100 years. It's amazing, literally the perfect pie. After years of her making it and refusing to share the recipe, I stopped asking. But I started experimenting on my own, trying to reverse engineer it and recreate it. I did this by taking a slice home every chance I could so that I could use it as a taste test. It took a lot of test runs and failures, but this year is the closest I have ever gotten to recreating it. It's not 100% there yet, but it is damn close. I know I'm still missing something, but I haven't figured out that final piece yet. Now, my wife's family had a potluck get-together this past weekend because mother-in-law had a fall. She's fine, just bruised. She was just kind of scared by the whole ordeal. She had to go to the hospital to make sure nothing was broken. She wanted people to get together so that she could have some comfort. Since she's not able to do too much physically, I offered to bake apple pie and bring it. So I made an apple pie as close to mother-in-law's recipe as I possibly could. Again, not 100% recreation, but really close. When people started having desserts, a few people made comments about how amazing it was that mother-in-law was able to still cook her apple pie after what happened. Mother-in-law looked confused and said that she didn't make her apple pie. I said that I made it and tried to recreate mother-in-law's recipe. Mother-in-law said I couldn't have made it exactly like hers because she never gives out that recipe. I told her I didn't use her recipe. I've just been trying to recreate it the past few years. She tried a slice and immediately accused me of stealing her recipe somehow. I reiterated that I never got her recipe. I've just been trying to reverse engineer it, and that I know it's close but it's not there yet and something is still missing. But she was convinced that I stole her recipe somehow, and it started a fairly big argument that ended with me being asked to leave. My wife ended up staying behind to calm things down before coming home. When she got back, she was angry at me too. She said I should have known better than to bring something like that when mother-in-law is not in good shape. She said I got mother-in-law all wound up and irritated. Also that I could try and boost my ego and try to make mother-in-law look bad. She said I should know how much that recipe means to mother-in-law, and that it's one thing to try and recreate it at home, but I was totally in the wrong to bring it to a potluck like that when people are expecting mother-in-law to make the apple pie. Mind you, my wife was 100% aware I was bringing that pie. Edit. I seriously and honestly thought this would be a nice way to honor mother-in-law. There was no malicious intent behind my actions. Some of you are incredibly cynical to attempt to attach desires of revenge to malice when I was just trying to do something nice for mother-in-law when she's feeling down. Clearly, my execution was poor and it was received badly. But I had zero intention of showing up mother-in-law or trying to replace her recipe. I was just trying to do something nice. Softy or the a-hole / everyone sucks here. You knew it was a point of pride for her, hence her strange refusal to share the recipe. You should have easily made a next mental leap that bringing her pie to a family event would not be well received. You basically said, "Screw you, I'm getting the recipe anyway." She is definitely the weird one here, but you really should have known not to poke that particular bear. Edited to add, I don't blame you for reverse engineering the pie. I'm a fair cook, and consider anything I taste/see to be fair game for me to try. But you should have just kept the pie away from mother-in-law. It definitely was a read-a-room situation. This was not a place to debut his pie. How he didn't have the forethought to guess what her reaction would be after she's kept the recipe a secret all these years is beyond me. I'm going with your the a-hole not because you recreated the recipe, but because you took the pie to the potluck knowing how much this elderly lady valued and took pride in preparing this recipe for the family. It sounds like this was her one thing. And from working with elderly people, I've seen many that feel like their life is over. They have nothing to contribute and feel left out/alone. This was something that made her happy. It was something that made her feel like she was still special, and you had to go take that from her. I think this is it for me. Like, objectively, one could argue that Opie did nothing wrong and the granny should share and not gatekeep and whatever. I understand and empathize with that. But sometimes people deserve to have their thing for some time. I remember I started doing lettering on paper bags for Christmas and selling them. And I always give people gifts in a bag like that. And I won money working in fairs and such. And then a friend started doing it too. Objectively, I knew they had all the rights in the world and I had no business getting angry or whatever. And I never once told this to them or anyone, and I even encouraged them and gave them the tips to where to buy nice cheap pens. But inner me was like, but why did you choose this thing to do? So yeah, rationally Opie's not the a-hole, but morally he is. Edit 2. I think coming here was a mistake. Some of you are seriously mean people. I was just trying to do something nice, and you're making me feel like a total POS. Yes, I made a mistake in judgment, but it wasn't malicious. I think that's enough internet for today. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my parents out of my house after telling them they had no right to speak about what my wife does and doesn't want? I, 30 male, am married to my wife Ellie, 29 female, and we are expecting our first child later this month. Background? Ellie and her brother Leo and late brother Josh were raised by my mother-in-law. Mother-in-law was a former foster child who never found a forever family in the system and was never able to track down any biological family, though she does believe she'd have half-siblings somewhere. When Ellie and her brother's dad then decided to quit his job and leave her on her own to raise the kids, she struggled. Then she lost Josh, the oldest, when he was 16 years old. It tore them apart, and was yet another big hit for my mother-in-law who did everything she could for her kids. Ellie has talked about how her mom suffered terribly with her mental health under the strain of everything, and how she's grateful that she was able to recover enough to be present in their lives today. Today, mother-in-law is starting to financially be in a better, more stable place, but she's far from rich. She is also not dropping everything to help her kids all the time. Ellie and Leo have told me before that their mom had to give away so much of herself when they were growing up, had to spread herself so thin that they don't think she could do it anymore, because she had no support and only had her kids, who she didn't want to burden. So even though we live close to mother-in-law and Leo, she's not offering to be our childcare. Not that we expect her to, but I'll get to why I say that. And she also didn't pay for our wedding or throw us a big massive baby shower. She's a wonderful person, and Ellie will always say she's the best mom and would never ever want to lose her. My parents are visiting this weekend, and we had an argument. Back when we were engaged, they had commented that our wedding was not as big as they would have expected, and that my mother-in-law had not paid for anything. I told them it was our wedding, not mother-in-law's, so she had no reason to pay for it and told them not to bring it up again. They knew the history then, but it was bothering them that we chose to live close to her when she gives nothing and does nothing a mother and expected grandmother should do. They then started talking about how it must kill my wife that her own mother doesn't care, as a crappy mother, and how they know she likely hoped mother-in-law would offer to watch our child while we both work, and throw her a big baby shower, and offered to be on hand to help with every little thing. I told them they had no right to speak about what my wife wanted, and how dare they judge mother-in-law so harshly when they know what she has been through. I told them I did not want them upsetting my family, wife, brother-in-law, and mother-in-law, with those opinions, and I made them leave. They told me I was punishing them for having sympathy for my wife, and for wanting better for her than her own mother does. I said I should have let my wife decide if they spoke out of turn, but she was upset. She simply knows I am happy to step in and deal. But was my reaction too harsh? Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Reddit is full of men who don't stand up for their wives with their families. It's refreshing to see you do it. Your wife and in-laws will thank you. Your parents shouldn't have commented on your mother-in-law. Not the a-hole. I mean, I'd more say AITA is full of that, not Reddit. And that's because, generally speaking, people who are in a good relationship and support their significant other don't post on here. People shouldn't base their opinions in an entire demographic based on the type of people they see on AITA. I always believed, and still do, that it is the job of each partner to rein in their own parents. Not the a-hole. You did what you had to do. Your mother-in-law is also not a bad mother or grandmother. She had a very hard life and is doing the best she can. Your parents, however, are a-holes for judging her and pitying your wife. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not forcing my parents to invite my fiancé to their upcoming Christmas party? Christmas in my 28-male family is a big deal. My parents' holiday parties are pretty extravagant and beyond family. Only a select few get invites. This includes close friends and neighbors. My siblings and I can make suggestions, but it's our parents' party at the end of the day, which means their decisions are final. My parents also happen to be notoriously hard to impress. A few of my friends have made the invite list for the party before, but slowly as I've gotten older and lost touch with people, that list has dwindled down to just my longtime best friend and former roommate, Jordan, 32 male. We grew up in the same neighborhood, and he even worked at my dad's company for the majority of his 20s. While he's my friend first and foremost, he's clearly also a friend of the family. My parents love him, and have since we met when I was 15 and he was 19. I got engaged in September after dating my fiancée, 29 female, for around a year and a half. She wasn't put on a guest list last year, and she didn't see it as a problem since she was busy with her own family festivities. I hadn't really put much thought into what might happen this year, besides a brief mention to my parents about adding her some time last month. As always, my parents emailed my siblings and I the final guest list on November 1st, in order for us to look over it and give our thoughts as they finalized the final numbers in preparation to send our invitations and RSVPs. As I looked over it this morning, I noticed my fiancé's name wasn't on there. An important note is that the party isn't the only Christmas celebration we had. I also stay with my family on Christmas night in order to open presents the next morning, and all significant others are invited to that. I told this to my fiancée and she was livid. She said it was beyond disrespectful that Jordan got an invite but she didn't, and that I needed to stand up to my parents. I told her it was their party and they had a final say, but that Christmas festivities would still happen. This just gave her time with her own family again. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, after texting them for a reason she was left out, my mom told me that multiple people had expressed distaste for her in the past, and that she was trying to minimize the amount of negativity/drama as much as she could. If I had to guess, I know who those people are, my sister and Jordan, who have both had slightly unpleasant interactions with my fiancé in the past where she claimed they were both stuck-ups. I now feel even more caught in the middle. You're the a-hole. Your parents have a right to invite whomever they want, but they are choosing to be incredibly disrespectful to your fiancé. If they don't think your future wife warrants an invite, you should not go. For your information, notoriously hard to impress is a euphemism for a-holes. I'm also guessing the fiancé is either a different economic class or a different race than OP. Why did OP's fiancé call them stuck up, I wonder? OP, you're the a-hole here. The only real question is whether the engagement falls apart because 1. The fiancé is no longer willing to put up with OP's nonsense, or 2. Mommy and daddy simply will not allow OP to go through with the wedding. Am I the a-hole for humiliating my mother-in-law by teaching her basic genetics? My husband and I have 3 daughters, 7, 5, 3, and another girl on the way. We are not trying to have kids until we have a boy, by the way. We just always wanted to have a big family, so we plan on having 4 babies and stop. I'll call my mother-in-law Janet to make it easier. My husband is Janet's only child, and she is proud of the fact that her family has raised great men. Grandparents, great-grandparents were influential people in my city or even country, and because of that, BS to be honest, they have this tradition to have at least one man to carry on the legacy. My husband totally disagrees with this tradition, and we made a decision together that he would have a vasectomy because we are satisfied with 4 girls. And surprisingly, his mother freaked out when she learned he had a vasectomy and has been pushing to get it reversed. When she saw that her son wouldn't do it, she began to say that I made his mind up and that I was the reason he didn't have a son. We don't cut contact because she helps us a lot with our daughters. She wants to, and she never mistreat them. Besides, they are always excited to go to Grandma's house again. Sunday was the baby shower and it was an event at my house. I had my family, friends, and my husband's family, mother-in-law, his aunts, and some cousins. There were tables scattered around, and my husband's family were at the same table. I went to say hello, talk to them to try to be present with all the tables, and here begins the part about me being an a-hole. The aunts and cousins started to congratulate me for another girl, and I think an aunt said something like, "It's too bad a boy didn't come. It would be perfect for the last child." Janet didn't even let me reply and said with a, "Not all daughter-in-law are capable of carrying out the family legacy." That's sad. I was shocked, and I admit got a little angry. Can I blame the hormones? I replied, "Look, Janet, in case you didn't know, to have a boy depends exclusively on your son's sperm, so stop talking nonsense." She was very embarrassed, so she became quiet and excused herself, left the house without saying anything. My husband thought it was funny, didn't get mad, and agreed that Janet needed it. But I suffered hate from his family who knew about what I did, and said I humiliated her unnecessarily to the point where she walked away from the party and not left for a day of the bedroom. I don't think I did anything wrong. Maybe I could have spoken less harshly, but I was tired of hearing her nonsense, and my limit was the baby shower. And yes, my husband warned her not to talk about this. For fear of different treatment with our youngest, we decided to enter low contact/no contact with her. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. If she didn't want you to tell her the fact, maybe she shouldn't have been trying to badmouth you and intentionally humiliate you at your own baby shower. Not the a-hole. Janet can dish it out but can't take it. Janet shouldn't have opened her mouth. But it's okay to humiliate Opie and not Janet? Glad Opie stood up to her. Seriously, if you don't want to be corrected in front of others, try not being wrong in front of others. Oh, so it was fine when she was trying to humiliate you by stating you were inadequate for not having male children, but you responding with the truth was beyond a pale? Not the a-hole. And to be fair, mother-in-law isn't exactly the gold standard of son-bearing either. If she wanted to improve her chances of having a grandson, she should have had more sons, or even children, herself instead of stopping at one. She was probably afraid she would have a daughter, who would marry and not carry on the name. Next story. Am I the a-hole for literally showing my dad how he behaves every day when he gets home from work? My female 16, father male 46, is the breadwinner while my mom is a stay-at-home mom. She handles everything around the house, like cooking, mopping, washing, laundry, etc. I'm the oldest and I try to help, but really there's only so much I can do. While my dad just gets home at the end of the day and literally complains about everything, like how the carpet isn't clean or how the food is cold. As a result, I'd have to listen to a huge argument daily between him and mom. It's exhausting, but honestly, I think that my dad is in the wrong here. I tried talking to him to get him to see how his behavior is, but to no avail. So, what I did was pick a day off for him and pretend to act like him. I put together an outfit that looked like a suit and put black tape over my lips to look like a mustache. At 6 p.m., I went inside the house, shouted, "I'm home!" Then sat next to him in the living room and started kicking my shoes while complaining about the state of the house at the top of my lungs. He glanced at me confused, asking what I was doing. I ignored him, then started yelling about the carpet being dirty, shower not ready, the kids needing to be quiet, and so on. He kept staring while mom and my siblings laughed. My youngest brother kept pointing towards me and saying, "This is daddy!" and then proceeded to yell about dinner, then berated my mom for not preparing it before time. My dad stopped me and, in a serious tone, asked what I was doing. I turned to him and said, "What? Can't a man effing rest after working long hours?" in the most macho voice I could muster. My dad got the hint because this was the common phrase he uses daily. He went quiet and avoided looking at me. I stopped the act and told him I was trying to show him what it's like every day when he comes home from work. He said nothing, just went outside and refused to speak to me. Later, he went on about how I mocked and invalidated him. That he does work hard and me doing this was disrespectful and invalidating. Mom said it was funny, but also thought I hurt my dad's feelings, and I could have gotten the message across some other way instead. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You held up a mirror to his behavior and he didn't like what he saw. That's on him. I hope he gets the message. He didn't even realize he was looking in the mirror until the end. Then all the feelings crashed down hard on him. Hopefully he'll learn. Good job at figuring out a method that illuminated the situation. You can't hurt someone's feelings unless they already feel bad about that thing. Like, a tall person that enjoys being tall isn't going to be upset when someone makes a tall person joke, because they don't have insecurities about being tall. Dad here clearly already feels insecure about his contribution to the family. And when you made it super clear everyone in the house also sees he doesn't contribute properly to the family, he felt like crap. Not the holopy. He needs to see how his behavior is wrong and affects the entire household. Not the whole first off, but I think you have a good chance here. Listen, please. You can acknowledge, hey dad, I know that probably did hurt your feelings and I'm sorry. Of course you work hard and provide for us and we appreciate it. But I want you to see that your behavior hurts mom's feelings and hurts the family. The fact he went quiet instead of exploding in anger to me says there is hope. Like many dudes his age, he struggles to process those emotions, but he recognized he was feeling more embarrassed/hurt than angry, it seems. The key is to understand and withhold judgment, to recenter the conversation on not just his pain, but everyone's feeling pain and moving forward. That's tough, and you're a kid. It's not your responsibility to do it. You would be morally justified to say F off. But I always ask, do you want to win or be right? Being right often feels hollow. I hope you win. I just want to hop onto this excellent comment to add, I would also recommend you having a private chat with your mom. Explain to her that me acting like dad wasn't just about pointing out his bad behavior towards you. I also want to point out how your marriage affects the whole family. The daily fights and dad's yelling affects everyone. We all feel it when it gets to the time dad is due home and we prepare to listen to our dad to be mean to our mom. It affects all of us knowing our dad doesn't respect our mom. Every day we all watch your hard work. We have started trying to help you out because we know our dad doesn't appreciate or respect the hard work you do. It's so bad that younger brother recognized I was pretending to be dad so quickly, yet dad didn't know what was going on until the last minute. But what affects me the most is knowing that despite all this, you always put dad's feelings first, before your own and before everyone else's. Even now, you're more concerned with how what I did hurt dad's feelings than you are concerned by how dad's behavior affects the rest of the family. Brother strongly associates that behavior with dad, while dad apparently has no idea he behaves like this. And your priority is me apologizing to dad, not changing this dynamic between you and dad, or asking dad to apologize to us for making our atmosphere at home so awful every time he comes home from work. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to share my business profits with my husband? I, female 32, have a leg disability that got worse to the point I could no longer work. So I stayed home with the kids for 4 years. I had plenty of free time after the kids became more independent, and I found myself sitting around all day long. I have a sewing hobby that I learned while living with my grandmother since I was 13, so I started spending my time sewing. My husband made a laughing stock out of me, calling me grandma or granny and running with the jokes and teasing. It was unbearable, but I ignored him. A friend of mine saw some of my works and suggested I open a website and sell what I make. I was hesitant about it, and my husband's opinion was, meh, who would want to buy grandma's junk? But I asked my friend to help me, and people really liked my works. They started buying them off of me, which was shockingly amazing, y'all. I started really investing into this, and in 1 month, I was able to make over $200 to $300. It's been 3 months now into the business. When money started coming, my husband would ask me to buy something or make a restaurant reservation or even fix his car for him. When I refused, he'd say that I have money from my sewing business and should really pay. I declined every single time he asks. Yesterday, he showed me a wristwatch online that he really liked and asked if I could pay for it. I said no because I have no money. He pointed out once again the money I have for my sewing business, but I told him that the money was literally none of his business. He blew up saying that I was being selfish and mean, and said that the business profit should be split equally between both of us, not just me. I used caps because he yelled those words. I told him he not only mocked me for sewing, He even doubted my potentials. Besides that, I do all the work, so why would he expect profit? He said that he, as my husband, gets half, and I should really consider it or stop the sewing thing altogether. I laughed, thinking he was messing around, but he left the house, then came back looking pissed. His friend called to scold me, reminding me that my husband already does enough for me to be able to find some time to sew, and so he deserves a percentage, but I still refused. Now his family are pressuring me to share the money, but I'm still refusing. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Everyone sucks here. Your husband sucks for belittling you and discouraging you. But I assume your husband works and has been bringing in an income that he used to pay for food and shelter. You got to share in that, didn't you? Your husband may not deserve a percentage, but you're supposed to be in this marriage together. It doesn't sound like you are. If that's the case, end it with him so you can both find someone more suitable. He's a bit of an unsupportive jerk. But why is your income only yours while his is both of yours? A bit? No. He's a huge, massive, raging, unsupportive a-hole. I'm with the wife on this one. Though I do have to say, if my partner were as disrespectful as Opie's, then I would have been gone long ago. He has no respect for her or her business. He's just sticking his grubby hands in the piggy bank now that she's actually making money. I guess she should be paying half the bills / rent / mortgage with her sewing money then, since apparently they don't share any money now. How much would he be paying for before and after school care for their children so he can go to work? Her business is a home business that she does in addition to being a stay-at-home parent. Is he paying her for her job or investing in her business? How much would he be paying for before and after school care for their children so he can go to work? You're talking as if the kids are only his, and the mom should be paid for taking care of her own children. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex and his wife that I do not care about their household in front of his stepchild? Ex and I were never married, but we share 2 sons, Cole 9 and Mika 8. 3 years ago, he met his wife Janessa, and 18 months ago they started living together with her kids who are under the age of 10, I believe. The boys struggled with their dad being serious with someone, and I hated that for them, so I put them both into therapy. My ex wasn't thrilled. His biggest complaint was therapy wasn't something he believed in. But our court order states either of us can put the kids in therapy, as long as the parent who makes the choice pays, provides access to the therapist to the other parent, and it doesn't interfere with the other parent's schedule. I take the boys in my time, so it was never an issue. Once they moved in together, the boys started to really dislike things, and it only got worse when my ex and Janessa married. They felt like Janessa was trying to take over as their mom, which they didn't like. There was pressure put on them to call her mom and her kids brother and sister. I don't know everything, as the boys prefer to keep certain things between them and their therapists. But after a while, the 2 therapists raised concerns about the environment at my ex's house, and having no cooperation from him when both tried to speak to him. So it was agreed I should try to amend the parenting time he gets. The judge decided he should go from 50-50 to every other weekend and a dinner every other Wednesday. Ex was not happy. He argued that he could provide them with a 2-parent home. The judge said they were engaging in parental alienation by attempting to force the title of mom for his wife. He also told my ex that he should have cared more about his son's well-being and engaged with their therapists. Ex and Janessa are really unhappy with the new schedule, and they have both attempted to complain to me that it was disruptive to their household to have the boys so little, and to have more money taken out of their household. I do my best not to engage. Janessa's pregnant now, and they wanted to have the boys the weeks leading up to the birth, so they would be present when she has the baby. I said no. I told them it was not the best interest of the boys. So they decided to bring it up around Janessa's daughter, during a moment where the boys were not present, about how it impacted their household and how much of a strain it is on them. I told them I did not care about their household. I care about my sons and their best interest. The child heard, and my ex and Janessa called me an a-hole for saying that in front of her. Am I? Not an a-hole. Your ex and his new wife sound like hard work. Why on earth she would demand they call her mom is anyone's guess. Control thing, I imagine. I hope you and your boys are okay. I suspect is leaving most of the kids' stuff to her, and so she feels like that entitles her to the title of mom. You're probably correct. She should, as a mother, respect that boundary. How would she feel if someone else was telling her kids to call them mom? I hate people. At least they have a good support from you. Thank you. I try my best to keep putting them first, so I have walked away from a good many things that could have become a fight, but it wouldn't be good for them. Janessa is pregnant now and they wanted to have the boys the weeks leading up to the birth so they would be present when she has the baby. Perhaps I'm a bit too jaded, but I'm immediately suspicious. What does she really want her kids around for? Because to see the birth of their half-sibling doesn't ring genuine to me. Have your kids ever complained about being made to do more chores than is fair for an 8 and 9-year-old? Or being made to entertain or watch their step-siblings? You keep doing what is best for your kids, not the a-hole. Chores has never been a complaint for my kids, but there has been a lot of sibling time forced which they haven't liked. They were never left in charge, but for example, Mika's class did a sibling day thing in school for art, and when he only drew him and Cole, my ex and Janessa told him it was wrong because he left out his other siblings.